right, we appear to be live. We appear to be live. All right, anyone here? This working? We live? Hello, Mr. Crazy Man, Ian. Hello, welcome back to the. I guess at this point, monthly pilot Starship stream. Get a nice little group of people coming into the Starship stream, and we're gonna watch Starship Flight 8 for together. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I normally have a face cam on for this for these streams, but I decided, we'll skip it for this one. I don't want to set it up and make sure I look good and all that fun stuff. So we'll just do a little bit of an audio only, and then you guys get a bigger screen to enjoy all the fun SpaceX related rocket launch that's happening in the back. And you've been waiting for ages, bro. This is like a quick turnaround. I mean, you remember flight 4 to 5 was like a 4-month delay. Flight 4 went off in June. Flight 5 went off in October. Flight 6 happened pretty quick. Flight 7 happened pretty quick. And now Flight 8 is happening a little bit later than the turnaround from Flight 6 to 7, but still relatively quickly. Reaction round, any facial expressions? Well, I guess I can plug it in. Hello, Lonut. Here, give me 1 sec. You guys want a face cam? We can certainly oblige you guys. Sonic Unleashed is on PC. That's cute. That's cute. Alright, webcam. Let's see here. This will be really weird when I turn it on because I'm gonna be like, it's gonna be like, meh. There it is. Is that showing me? And on. Oh, there we are. Webcam. Can do a webcam. I'll have to figure out where to mount this thing really quick. If you... Gotta move this down. Move this down. This up. Okay, I just put it like right here, and you get a good view of me. Or, let's see here. Stand by for the amazing technical. We still have a couple minutes until that's upside down, isn't it? Yeah. We still have a couple minutes of just kind of hanging out until the SpaceX stream actually does go live. So we can kind of goof around and do nothing for a couple minutes. Like, is that? I mean, that's not really even looking at me. Like, hello camera. Guess I could mount like here, maybe? I could mount over here. Looks like a good option to me. This is our normal spot. All right, well, here we are. Webcam. Now the webcam string cord is there we go. Let me get caught up on chat here. Could have used our pilot booster. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here, my stream on. My chat is a little messy. There we go. All right. Cool. A little bit sideways. Okay, I'm sure this is fine. My hair is... I need to get a haircut. Oh, well. You guys can look at weird, sloppy looking pilot. Anyway. There's... stream's supposed to start 40 minutes before the launch. I usually go live an hour before the launch. So stream would... We expect a 4 or 5:30 p.m. local time launch. The stream we expect to start at 4:50. But there's a little bit of a delay on the stream. But there has been an official delay. from SpaceX, so I've decided to just continue and go live here and await official confirmation. So absolutely, it seems like we have OLM venting and all the usual things that are indicative of the propellant load process, at least beginning to, I guess, begin. Let me merge all my browser tabs here so I can get all my information linked up here. Sorry if this gets a little, I'll just open the tabs on my own again. What am I looking at? And my internet kind of dies for a second. That's been happening lately. Don't know what the problem is. We'll have to look to rectify that situation at some point. But my internet's been doing like these weird spasms where it'll go out for like 20 seconds and then come right back. Like these little flickers. I don't know what the deal is with that. But if that unfortunately happened during the last stream, and if it decides to do that again, so play KSP occasionally. Just forewarned. I have 4 streams and 4 different devices. Yeah, I mean, you gotta maximize your viewage of Starship. Gotta maximize it. Anyway, and speaking of internet outages, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the blimp. The blimp, it's not actually called a blimp. It's the aerostat, I think is what it actually is called. But over on South Padre Island, which is right across from the launch site, there is this blimp that Border Patrol has up to apprehend all the Mexicans. So there is a little issue with the blimp today, the aerostat. I'm just going to call it a blimp. It's tethered, right? And the tether had an issue, and the blimp literally crashed. As you can see here, it is dying, rip blimp. But what that actually did was on its way out, the tether took out some of the power lines. So a bunch of the streams for today's launch got kind of like Everyday Astronaut stream had to get delayed because the island lost power and they couldn't stream because the freaking Border Patrol blimp took out the power. It's pretty funny. What's that finger at? Angry Astronaut, interesting. What about it, Everyday Astronaut? And this goat, I know I am the GOAT. Best of them all, obviously, totally, 100%. No, probably not. Anyway, so yeah, we don't have an official confirmation, so launch is either at 5:30 or 5:40 or scrubbed. I mean, it's probably not scrubbed, but I'm just listing some of the possible outcomes. We appear to some degree be in prop load, so normally SpaceX they tweet when they go for prop load, but there was no such tweet today. So we'll either assume that they're just not gonna do it, or that we're just all things are normal and we're going for prop load anyway. So we'll just have to keep waiting here for a little bit until we get SpaceX going live here in about 10 or so minutes. So that'll be fun to look forward to. KSP time while I wait. Not a bad plan. Not a bad plan. We are about T-minus either 1 hour or T-minus 50 minutes away from Starship Flight 8. Hopefully a very exciting Starship launch where we will get to see booster catch. Actually, well, we can go through the timeline. That's something to do while we wait. Go through the timeline of the rocket launch. So, Starship Flight Test 6. Propellant load, an hour 15 away. We've passed that. LOX load, all that load is underway. We'll start with at T0, right? So liftoff, max Q, this is all the same. Hot staging, all the same. Roughly within a couple seconds of each other. But here's your interesting thing to start, right? So 6:37, this is the catch. And then 8:44 is ship cutoff. This might be a little bit later. I don't remember. They might be going through... But I know they're changing the throttling a little bit just to avoid the pogo oscillations. And then right after ship cutoff, assuming the ship survives, we will have just about 10 minutes after that, a little less than 10 minutes after that, we'll have the payload deploy demo, which is where they have those dummy Starlink satellites. I want to say they have 3 of them for this mission. They'll deploy those out of the PEZ dispenser, And I believe I've heard that there's cameras, or maybe cameras, on board those Starlink, so we'll be able to see an outside view of the ship in space, which will be really cool. And then we'll do nothing for about 20 minutes, and then it'll be the relight, which is basically the deorbit burn. And then 10 minutes after that will be the entry, even though entry really starts only 2 or 3 minutes after this point, which is what we learned on Flight 6, because the plasma started quite quickly. And then we go through the landing of Ship 34 in the Indian Ocean. So that is our timeline for today. Hopefully everything will be wrapped up in an hour. Might have some delays, but this KSP mod is great. What mod be that? I hope President Elon Musk and his friend put more resources in Starship. I would not mind more resources in Starship, although it feels like there's quite a bit of resources in Starship anyway. I would not mind like a $50 billion drop into Starship, but, you know, because Starship seems to be doing very useful things. So, but, you know, honestly, the biggest improvement we've seen for the Starship program in the last couple months is it really seems that the regulatory issues of Starship have really eased by a lot. If you remember, Flight 4 to 5 had a very difficult and strenuous process with the FAA. Starship is the resource. And then Flight 7, after essentially the RUD on Flight 7, and potentially there's conflicting reports. Some people think there is, some people think there isn't, but whether or not there is debris that exited the hazard areas is TBD. But, you know, it was not an ideal situation, and people were really dooming in the community and thought it was the end. But, you know, here we are, a little more than a month later, and getting ready for Starship Flight 8, essentially 0 issues from the FAA, which I think, you know, has a reason to it. Able to handle the atmospheric entries on a Mars mission. Atmospheric entries on Mars? You mean into Mars or from Mars, right? Because to Mars is probably already handled worse than that for these current flights, right? Because Mars' atmosphere is so thin that it's not really much of an issue heating. But on the way back, I mean, that'll be a different story, right? But so yeah, you have to keep in mind that the excess velocity between a orbital mission and a Martian mission is not actually that much. So it's about, I want to say, well, I shouldn't say not that much. It costs about 4,000. How much is Martian injection? It might be like 4,000 meters a second to get to escape velocity. I shouldn't say it's not that much more. It's not that much more than the moon. The moon, it is more. So like you're going about 7.5 kilometers a second in orbit, and then call it 8 kilometers a second in orbit when you enter from Leo, and then Mars you'd be going about like 12 kilometers a second, which is more. And then keep in mind heating rises with velocity cubed, right? So double the temperature is 2 to the 3. So 2 times equals 8 times the heating. So, you know, I mean, it's essentially like 40% more, so you're really getting like 1.5x heating, something along those lines. The atmospheric entry on Mars is no problem in terms of heating because of how thin it is, but speaking of that thinness, how much will the atmosphere slow it down at Mars? So, slowing down at Mars is a little bit of a problem. You can see, I mean, KSP is pretty good at demonstrating this, but you want to land at as low of an altitude as possible relative to like Martian sea level in quotes, because the lower you go, the thicker the atmosphere gets, then the slower you get. But by all accounts, I mean, it would be more. It wouldn't be an untenable amount of propellant. It would be. The problem really is, right, if you're trying to standardize the vehicles. If you have a header tank, if you have a ship that has a header tank that is Mars-sized, it is then too big for Earth. you will have excess propellant and then essentially wasted weight if you try to have a wasted mass. If you try to bring a ship with Mars-sized header tanks back to Earth, which obviously you have to do. So my guess is that they're going to have like an enlarged header tank version of the ship, which goes to Mars. Because if these header tanks that are currently on the ship are sized for Mars, I don't think that would make a ton of sense because you'd be wasting propellant. Heating is Mars is it worse? It should be less, but because of the increased speeds of Martian entry, the temperature, I believe, is more. Is it more? I don't know. I just assumed it was. I mean, Earth, the Mars atmosphere is like 1% the density. I mean, it's not as much about the density as it is the velocity. But it's so much less dense. It's super low to get reasonable drag on Mars, so it's really hot. That's true. So speed, that's the real factor. Yeah, I mean, perhaps I was just guessing, so perhaps my guess was wrong. But I mean, the speeds aren't right. But again, you're coming into Mars at relative to Mars, you'd be moving. I don't know how fast you'd be moving. Probably like 10 kilometers a second. Earth, yeah. No problem. Yeah, it's fine. Air pressure on the surface of Earth is about the same as 20 kilometers high on Earth. Okay. 5:45. Is that an official delay, Parker? Or is that from SpaceX? Now targeting 5:45 for liftoff of Starship's 8th flight test. That is, thank you for providing timely information. Thanks for the update. Alright, so we can keep yapping about Mars for the next 15 or so minutes. Until we get the stream up. So, okay. But, okay, even if Mars entry 5:45 Central, yeah, so it's a 15-minute delay. It's okay, so even if heating is worse, Martian heating wouldn't be worse than... It was different heating, right? Because there's like peak heating, and then there's two metrics for heating. There's peak heating and heating duration, right? So if you're see, this is where my knowledge of heat shields becomes limited. So you can either design a trajectory that's really steep, where you'll spend less time in heating but have a higher overall peak load, or you can do a shallower trajectory where you have a lower peak heating but a greater heating duration. For KSP, I believe the steeper trajectories are better because peak heating is kind of irrelevant on for the KSP heat shields. If you're using a heat shield, if you're using a space plane, or if you're using non-heat shielding parts, then yes, peak heating is what matters. Stream hasn't been delayed, right? No, I mean this is basically accurate to 40 minutes before the launch, so I think this delay may have been in effect for a while. But I will expect them to go live within 5 minutes of this scheduled start time. Aris and Juno New Origins, cool. Also, when starships and humans are on Mars, they can repair tiles before relaunch. Yeah, I mean, tiles. The reason tiles break is because usually vibration. That's usually what breaks the tiles. That's what's broken the tiles. Elon was on Rogan the other day and talked fairly extensively about the Starship heat shield, actually, which was really cool to see. He got some valuable-ish insights, but. So when you mount the tiles, right, they're basically like a plate or a mug or something. So when you're basically sliding the tile onto these mounting pins, and then there's some other stuff they do to keep them attached. But you're sliding. Essentially, what you're doing is you're taking a bunch of plates and you're jamming them together in this like wall. So like, I mean, just imagine you do that at home, right? You set up like a wall, and you take all the plates out of your cabinet or cupboard, and you put like nails on the wall, and then you stick all the plates on the wall, and then you take the wall and you just start like shaking it like an earthquake. You know, the plates are going to run into each other, they're going to crack, they're going to fall off, they're going to, they're going to do all sorts of stuff like that. And that's really the problem with the heat shield tile. So if the heat shield tile, so the point at which heat shield tiles break is during, high shaking and expansion and stuff like that. So like cracking, so the vehicle contracts during prop load and then expands during entry, right? Because when you enter, you're hot, and that makes things get warmer. And then when you're at prop load, you put the cryo propellant in, and that makes it get smaller. So if you're worried about cryo or about heat shield tiles cracking, is when you're loading prop that the cracking would occur because you're contracting and blah blah blah. So I guess the whole point of this giant rant I'm going on is that typically the failure modes for heat shield for the tiles aren't really present after the thing is in orbit. So I guess the point is that the tiles you get in orbit are most likely to be the same tiles you're going to have when you land. So generally I wouldn't expect, so you'd be able to do repairs on orbit, but I generally, once you land on Mars, I wouldn't expect you to need to do any more repairs because tiles wouldn't have fallen off. Height of Mars atmosphere meter from the lowest point of Mars. I mean I know the answer in KSP terms, but I can talk extensively about Duna's atmosphere, but I cannot talk as much about real life Mars' atmosphere, which is a little embarrassing because, Duna is not real. Real to me. Duna's atmosphere starts at like 50 kilometers. Similar to have a thick ablative backup layer, it's not easy to even replace the tile without breaking the pins or shattering it. That is very true, furries. They do have a backup ablative layer. I know like on flight 5 and 6, they went really hard. Maybe just maybe 4 and 5. A few of the flights they went really hard on these big backup ablative layers. I don't know the extent to which they're still putting them on. I know there's backup ablative in several parts of the ship, but for Mars, I mean, you might not, especially with on-orbit prop loading or refueling, essentially orbital refueling. You have a little bit more mass to play with, a little more payload to play with. Just done a bit of researching. I was completely wrong, and while speed does play a significant part, it's more density than speed. I misread the wiki article. Okay, so that makes sense, actually. That makes sense. So is Mars hotter or cooler then? Is Mars still hotter though, Entry? Earth is worse. Okay, there we go. So Earth is, so that's what I thought. My initial guess was correct then. They do have a spare, right? They do have a spare right now, right? Talking about, oh yeah, you were talking about the ablative layer, right? Yeah, they have. But I'm not clear on if it's on the entire ship. There's people you could ask who would know this answer, but If I'm doing a cleaning style of my KSP, what is the best free cloud mod? Environmental visual enhancements, and there's many different configs for it. Depending on what you think looks best and what your PC can handle. So Astronomer's visual pack is very conducive to more low-end PCs. It's more forgiving. If you have a laptop, I'd recommend Astronomers. Even Spectra 64. Yeah, so those are even Spectra, Spectra is a really good one. Which one? I don't even. Kind of embarrassing, but I've been using the volumetric clouds for so long. I don't remember which config I used before I went to the 3D clouds, but it was like the best one. The best one. Earth is 3760 Celsius. Mars is roughly, okay, so like quite a bit lower. But But also, like, Dave, the volumetric clothes do not cost that much. I mean, if you really want to spend any money, then yeah. They also are quite hard on performance, but it's like $1. You just have to... Oh, wait, hold on. There might be a free version. I don't know. I don't want to look too far into it. But I think you just need the Black Rack Patreon, and it might be like one. I don't know what the lowest cloud unlocked here is. I want a Microsoft Surface until I can build a PC. I bought volumetric clouds and have like 20 FPS. Yeah, that's rough. That is rough. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you would, Parker, have a higher temperature. You ever seemed pretty handicapped by a shooter bar our last flight when it was actually flying for the second stage? You're talking about like the Starship stage or the stack in general? Because it, obviously with the Block 2, it did have a lower TWR compared to Block 1 just because it is heavier. You're talking specifically about the second stage. Yeah. That's not a long-term problem because they will be having 9 engines. Eventually, they'll be adding 3 more vacuum engines on some version. I feel like the whole Block 2, 3, 4 thing isn't really relevant anymore. They're just kind of... I don't think that's really accurate. They're just making improvements as time goes along. So whatever version, it'll be a little bit longer to have more engines and, you know, boom. It'll be faster. But, I mean, it's important to keep in mind that, like, a Block 2 ship with lower TWR still has... like almost substantially more performance than a Block 1 ship with a higher TWR just because it has so much more propellant. I have a 3060, but I'm getting one of the new 50 series because I'm an epic gamer, 64 gigs of RAM. How much dedicated WAM do I need for my Minecraft server? But, yeah, I have 32 gigs of RAM and not a 3060 or a 50 series. I have a 1080 Ti. Because I am too much of a cheapskate to want to upgrade. Graphics cards, GPUs, computer hardware in general is crazy expensive right now. I actually just got a new SSD. Something coming from an interplanetary transfer is going at least escape velocity at whatever altitude it is. Escape velocity on the surface of Mars is 5 kilometers a second. Earth is 11 kilometers an hour. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's roughly 580 with 8 gigabytes. Ooh. My 1080 Ti has 11 gigabytes of VRAM. Okay, so Mars would be... see, I'm thinking of things in KSP terms still. But I would expect... I mean, how much further is Mars from escape velocity? It's only like a kilometer a second, isn't it? So you're going like 12 kilometers, a little over 12 kilometers a second escaping from Earth, and about maybe 6 kilometers coming into Mars a second. 6 kilometers an hour is not even that fast. That's lower. 6 kilometers an hour is lower than Leo entry. It's almost time to go live. It is almost time to go live. 6 kilometers a second was my speed entry Mars. If you're talking RO Mars, then that would be accurate. Yeah. So actually, to what we were talking about earlier about heating differences between Earth entry and Mars entry, not only does Mars have a thinner atmosphere, but it also, you're coming in slower. So, yeah, so Mars is definitely less strenuous on the heat. You do RSS, yeah. So you could almost try and build we're live, is SpaceX live? Oh, shoot, yep, they're live. You were first. Yeah, you're on top of things, Arian. So I wonder if you could almost make like a less beefy version of the heat shield for Mars. The problem that would create, obviously, is coming back to Earth, but who cares about returning people alive? You know, maybe you could do... Speaking of steel, I don't care, say whatever you want. But if you say stuff, I may say stuff, and, you know, there's a disagreement there, you know? Get ready to go to war. I'm joking. What should I be able to do in KSP stock before getting RSS? I was thinking of Grand Tour. Grand Tours are hard. I've never done a Grand Tour, and I have thousands of hours on KSP. I've tried to do Grand Tours before. I didn't really try that hard. It depends if you're doing mining or not. If you do a mining Grand Tour, it's not super hard. I honestly, I've barely ever played an RSS. I really like stock. The reason I like stock is because it's just easier. Not easier in a, like, well, it's more, it's just quality of life is easier, right? Because orbital velocity is so much lower. All the velocities are just lower. So it doesn't, like, for RSS it takes 10 minutes to get into orbit, and that's just like, if you're trying to iterate something and design something and do a bunch of launches, it just takes a lot. Time consuming, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Dave. And the mons are hard to get working, and you know. See you. See ya. Yeah, and things take forever to load, and things break, and blah blah blah. So, and also like SSTOs don't really work in RSS, and I'm not like a huge SSTO person, but I do enjoy doing them from time to time, and they work really well in stock KSP. I'm trying to... Stock engines have intentionally terrible ISP. Well, I mean, do they? I mean, it is lower than real life, but... I mean, even actually to have that kind of conversation, you have to look at the weight of, like, liquid fuel in KSP relative to the actual mass or density of other propellants. Because that's kind of, you know, because... Hydrogen in real life has a super high ISP, but you have to have all these really heavy fuel tanks just to carry the stuff. So that offsets a fair bit of the efficiency gains, which is why hydrogen is really best saved for upper stages. But yeah, I mean, you have to kind of nerf the ISP a little bit just because of how buffed the atmosphere is. Trying to make a rocket do a direct transfer to Jupiter to do a crewed landing on one of the moons and back. It's insanely difficult in RSS so far. I've got a rocket with 32 kilometers a second at delta V. Wow. That's also the thing with RSS, right? Is because all the burns take so much more delta V. So to go to Joule in KSP, you just basically don't even have to make that big of a rocket. You just drag the maneuver node and you're there. For RSS, that's, you know, you have to do all these complicated transfers, and all the inclinations are real life, and there's, you know, the Earth rotates not on the, there's like the 23 degree tilt the Earth has off its axis for rotation, so you have to deal with that, and it's just a pain, especially for you know, making videos in the game is so much easier when things just work, right? Because and you can spend your whole time like actually like writing a script and editing the video, and if you need to write a script for that particular video, or doing cool things instead of spending the entire time trying to get a rocket to go where you want it to go, right? And that also means like you can't do like the weird KSP kind of cartoony stuff, like build surface bases on Val. The stream doesn't seem to be working for me. Guess I'll be watching through you. That doesn't sound like a bad idea. Can you bother with the hours? Yeah, me neither. Me neither. People, yeah, cinematics are really cool. I thought about trying to do those before, but so time consuming. Never mind. Never mind? Oh, you got the stream working. Oh, we're live. All right, I'm going to stop talking here while they... Oh, no, this is just the same intro video. Never mind. So we'll keep talking over their lame intro video, which you've seen a million times. Is there an RO-like mod for the stock system? I might not... I'm not the best person to ask about that. There might be. I don't know. I can't give a good enough. Yeah, I'm quite far removed from the RSS community. Nice to see you fellas again, of course. Nice to see you again too. Are you interested in KSA? I've been kind of keeping an eye on development, just kind of, you know, whenever I get to see something recommended, I'm like, oh, I'll check in what's going on. I'm not really super actively following it, but, you know, I check on, I'm passively aware of it. I'll get more excited when it gets closer to launch. Desperate need of a haircut, guys.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 8th flight test.
BlackRock is making.
Starship.
Oh, cool.
Gorgeous view there on your
The
screen.
weather definitely
Starlink,
seems to be clearing
Texas.
up a little bit.
It is currently 5:05
All right.
p.m. Central
Cool.
Time here.
Let me know
We
about
are
audio
looking
if we need to turn them
forward
up a little
to
bit,
tonight's
or
launch
turn
of
me
the
down a
world's
little bit, or
most
turn everyone
powerful
up a little
rocket.
bit up.
I'm Kate Tice, Senior Quality Systems Engineering Manager.
They're still not
here at
inviting
SpaceX.
Jesse out to the rockets, to the launches, are they?
Communications. Welcome to our first ever broadcast from Starbase's new Star Factory building. I've been waiting a while.
Oh,
to
cool!
say
They're
that.
in the Star Factory. I thought at first they were in like a high bay or something. They're in the factory. This is awesome. They'd be in the office section probably.
5:45 p.m. Central Time today.
Yeah, and if you were
And
wondering,
when you did your
yes,
first
that
face
is
reveal
the
live for a
pad
few
just
seconds.
behind us.
Oh.
Now, just
Was that
over
hopefully a
1
pleasant
month ago,
experience
we
for
saw
you?
the second
Maybe
ever
might not
tower
really.
catch of the Super Heavy booster there at that pad, and that was also the first ever flight of the next generation of
They're
ship.
still not
which
inviting
successfully
Kate
lit
out
all
to
6
the
Raptor engines and flew for
the
several
launches, are
minutes
they?
before contact was lost.
That's right. We completed our investigation following that mission, made a number of hardware operational changes for today's flight. We're going to detail all of those in just a few minutes. Important to remember, though, progress in a development program like this one, it's not always linear. There's no comparison, though, for putting that flight hardware in a flight environment to learn as fast as possible.
Man, we get
As
it,
always,
man.
Primary payload for Starship flight test campaign is data.
We get it.
The objectives for today's flight will look very similar to Flight 7. We're planning to deploy simulated Starlink satellites and fly
That
a
you are.
range of experiments. We've moved a number of tiles from ship. We've removed a number of tiles from
We have
the ship
lag?
for re-entry
Oh shoot!
testing.
oh no! My
We
internet.
will also
My
intentionally
internet,
distress
no!
the flaps during re-entry so we can test the limits of ship before we get ready to attempt future ship catches. So lots of new testing happening today, and as always, excitement is definitely guaranteed.
No.
Just checking on things at the pad real quick.
Nah.
We're under 38 minutes away. We are tracking to 5:45 p.m. Central Time liftoff. We've got a window all the way to
Does it look like
6:30
Goku?
p.m. We have started prop load. You'll start to see those frost lines building up on both Super Heavy and Starship. We're not tracking any technical issues, any range issues, any weather issues from a launch at that 5:45 p.m.
What's with
mark.
all the
So
buffering?
Prop on the vehicles looking good for a launch in just a little over 37
Oops,
minutes.
it's double
Now,
audio.
let's meet today's vehicle on the pad. It's the world's biggest rocket, Starship.
Yeah, you see it there on your screen, but to get an even better sense
Why
of
are we
how big
literally
it is, let's
nonstop
start with
buffering
the
right now?
average
What's
size
going
human,
on?
which is about 2 meters high.
Why
a little over
can't
6
I
feet.
live stream?
Towering over our human is the length of the Millennium Falcon, which comes in at 35 meters. Our Falcon 9 rocket, which is has the payload fairing attached, is double the height of the Millennium Falcon at 70 meters, and twice nearly the size of that
going on
is
here?
the fully stacked Starship, just over 123 meters tall. The ship is about 52 meters tall.
Are you
and the
guys
Super
getting
Heavy
buffers?
booster
I'm actually
alone
watching
stands
my stream
at about
live.
71 meters. So
I'm watching it
it's
live on
pretty big,
YouTube, and it
we do
looks
have plans
fairly
to
good.
make the ship and booster even taller in the future, if you can imagine.
Oh, I don't know why my Streamlabs is saying there's all that sort of all that buffering going on, because I don't see it.
Then we have the Super
I don't
Heavy
see it on
booster,
my
which is
end.
fully reusable first stage with 33 of those.
God,
Raptor
my hair is
engines
a bit of a
powering it.
disaster.
Super Heavy, the most powerful
No, there it
rocket
is.
ever flown, designed to
What's with
launch,
all the
return, refuel,
buffering?
launch again with zero refurb. And to make all of that happen, we also have Stage 0. That's everything else you see around it that enables Starship to fly. The tower, the orbital launch mount, quick disconnects.
It's fine now. I don't know, but my OBS still says I'm
Stage
dropping
0 is
frames,
also
and I don't.
just
That's
as
not
critical
very comforting to
achieving
me.
that rapid reuse as Starship itself.
I know what's going on there.
Back on the rocket, the ship features 6 Raptors, 3 of them for sea level engines and 3 for vacuum engines. Raptor Vacuum, or RVAC, is a similar design to the Raptor engine, but features a larger exhaust section and a larger expansion nozzle to maximize the engine's efficiency in space. It's also designed for vertical takeoff and landing on any hard surface. Useful
Okay, I
for
mean, if you guys aren't
a
seeing
place
any
like
issues,
Mars
then we'll
that's
just
still
kind of
waiting
leave it
for
up.
its first launch
I'm tempted
tower.
to if it starts buffering again, I'll restart the stream. But
that
I
are
don't know,
used
something's
to control the
weird.
vehicle's
Okay, as long as
attitude
buffering
during
has stopped, but
subsonic flight and to enable a precision landing.
All right.
The 2 upper ones are right here. And then to achieve
like
full reusability, the ship has to
bad
survive
hair day,
entry,
man.
not just once, but multiple times. Every single time we send it up and bring it back. It does that with its heat shield, which we iterate on every single flight as we're just building towards a heat shield that
We went from
requires
buffer to
no
buffer. Is it buffering
refurbishment.
now?
The one today, it's still composed of those thousands of hexagonal ceramic
Oh, I
tiles.
think...
They're
Okay, we're
designed
back.
to
We're
insulate
back.
the vehicle during
OBS
that
is no longer
atmospheric
showing
reentry where some of
buffering.
those temperatures spike
Okay.
up as high as about 2,600 degrees
Falcon
Fahrenheit.
unfailed. There was a
That's
landing.
real
There was a
big things
landing
we're working
failure.
on. Rapidly reusable heat
That's
shields,
not
which
a...
never existed
I mean,
in history.
I think it's pretty clear that
Continuously
for all these
improving
landing
right
issues,
now
it's been the
is just a
landing
key
legs. It's
focus
pretty clear
for
that the
all of us.
landing legs on Falcon are a
And
little
then
bit,
there
a little
in between
suspect,
the first and
which
second
is nice
stages
because,
is
you
our
know,
hot stage. We saw that in
catching.
action
No
first,
more
starting on flight
landings
2.
required.
The hot staging maneuver is when the upper stage engines are ignited before the booster engines are completely
You'll hear me
cut
on
off.
Starship, super
With
heavy,
hot
heavy,
staging,
like
the
Falcon
rocket
heavy.
never
Yeah, I mean,
stops
people have
accelerating during
kind of
separation.
speculated
So
about that
it's
for a
actually
long
more
time, but
efficient than
it'd
traditional
be
stage
very
flight,
difficult
even though
to
it sounds
kind of
crazy.
fit it all in
You
there
actually
with
see it
the
there on your screen now.
with like 3
That
OLMs next
is
to each
one of the
other. That'd be
upgrades that
kind
we
of
made
weird,
on
kind of
Flight
wild.
2,
And also,
thanks
there's
to
like the
lessons
flaps
that we
that
learned
kind of would
on
be in the
Flight
way.
1.
I think they'll
Several
probably
key
end up just making the
improvements,
booster
and
bigger
upgrades
and
made
wider
for
to solve
today's
that
flight will
problem.
unlock our ability to fly longer missions.
Secondary
Some
part of the
people
mission.
want
Yeah, if you're
to
talking about, yeah, the
start doing,
Falcon
the one as we
reuse
start
is
doing
indeed
orbital
a
flights
secondary
around
part of the
Earth,
mission.
and of course, eventually to Mars.
And Ship definitely had a lot of lessons learned on Flight 7.
Alright,
but
we're coming
Super
up on
Heavy
T-minus
Booster
30 minutes
Super
from
Heavy
launch.
Booster put on one hell of a show for our second ever return to launch site. and
Super
catch.
Saturn Falcon
Marked our
Heavy,
first
yeah.
reflight of hardware. Shout out Engine 314, and it brought us a lot closer to full reuse.
Dan is looking
For more
toasty
on
in
that,
this.
Get ready.
How
Internet.
red.
We're going to be joined now
Who?
by our buddy Chris
Who?
out in Hawthorne.
Who are
How's it
you?
going,
Where'd
Chris?
Jesse go?
And thank you, Dan, and I couldn't agree more. Raptor 134 definitely started us down.
Where'd
that path
Jesse
toward
go?
Rapid reusability for the Raptor engine.
I don't think she's on this
Who knows?
stream.
Maybe we'll see it again. Stay tuned. Welcome everyone to Hawthorne, California. As you can hear, excitement is building as we count down to Starship's 8th flight test. Behind me, you can see one of our mission control rooms where engineers here
Who
in
is this
Hawthorne are
loser?
assisting our flight
Get him outta
control
here.
teams in Starbase, keeping an eye on various systems like Starship's avionics and, of course, those powerful Raptor engines that have quite a workout ahead of them today. Now, the Raptor engines you'll see and definitely hear today were manufactured right here in Hawthorne, California.
Who is this
And the
loser?
engines on today's
Get out of here,
flight are
man.
all
What happened to
Raptor
John?
2 engines,
Oh,
which
I
is
mean,
the
John
same
retired.
been
He retired a
using
few
for
years ago,
Starship's
so
flight
he's
tests
actually...
to date.
He
And
has
this
his,
was all
his
engines that
absence
powered the two
makes
super
sense.
heavy
I'm on
boosters
Jesse
back to
Anderson
Starbase
back. We've had the
Vortex
same,
and recovery
basically
by
the same
Mozilla.
crew for almost every
Here at
Starship
SpaceX, we
launch,
like
and
to
now we have this
continuously
dude.
improve our
Who
designs
this
by
dude?
eliminating the parts
Get
we
this
don't
dude
need.
out of here.
We call this a
This
flying
isn't right. You're not
algorithm,
supposed to
and
be
that
here,
helps us
sir.
simplify designs and drives us toward rapid, reliable
You're an
reuse.
imposter.
And that's just what we're doing with our Raptor
You're an
engines,
imposter,
like
my
you can
man.
see here on your screen. I love this family photo of the Raptors because it really
That
shows
is
you
a
the
really good photo,
unprecedented
if we're being
step
honest.
forward in rocket design that Raptor 3 is, and you can really tell that
La,
we
la, la,
have
la,
an
la.
algorithm here,
Greasy
questioning
hair.
the requirements for the engine, finding the parts we didn't need, and then optimizing for manufacturability and reuse. Now, one of the cool
Yeah, I
things
had to
about
put my hood
Raptor
up
3 is
there.
that it eliminates the large and heavy engine heat shields, which means that when we
Problem
move from the
solved.
Raptor 2 to the Raptor 3 engines on Starship, each Raptor 3 engine is going to save us about 1.1 metric tons.
Hey, what happened to the
of
Pi
mass.
engine? I've been on a loop for a while. Well, they actually they were just talking about it a second ago, but they reflew it on flight 7, and it did well, and it doesn't. That's kind of the end of the road for it.
It's a really exciting.
After one looks, I'll have like nostalgia think about it. Yeah, me too.
Multiplanetary, beginning with Mars, but before we get to Mars, we still
Looks
have
like some
a lot of
stereotypical-
important
you're talking about this
development
dude?
work to do, and it's flight tests like today's that help us do just that. So as we get ready for Flight 8, let's take a look.
I mean, this
back
dude
at
still
last
does seem like a
month's
nice
Flight
guy,
7.
but where's Jessie? We need her back. Oh, a little bit of a video here. 3 years. Oh, I appreciate the loyalty. Let me make sure we're 1080p. I don't know why Twitter X can't
Flight director is go for launch.
can't get 4K streaming going.
5, 4,
3, 2, 1. Lift off. We fly. These videos are always really cool. I mean these have already been posted, so we've all seen these before. If you haven't, I mean, enjoy the video, obviously. Wow, wow.
vehicles reaching downrange.
Can you come back to YouTube, man? Yeah, I mean, that's probably never going to happen, though, because of, you know, Elon owning Twitter and all that.
Booster engine cut off.
Oh, these views of hot staging are really cool. You see the engines light. You can see them kind of come back together. The gimbal, they can gimbal in, and then there's boost back starting up. You can actually probably see the one engine that, there it is. You saw for a split second there, the one engine that didn't come back on. And there's hot stage jettison, and you know, we've seen all this. Yeah, we are within a half hour. I was going to mention that first. I know what I'm going to get. I know what I'm getting pinged about.
We are go for booster return.
Gold Gamer. I know, Gold Gamer, if you're watching, I know you've been asking so long to do a voice chat, a VC stream, like reaction, launch party, whatever, watch party on the Discord. We'll do it event. We'll do it for one of these launches, I promise you. One of these times I'll do it. Again, we did it for Flight 5. Do it again. Watch it. Not this one, though. Sorry. Do it for one of them. Maybe the first ship catch. That seems like a good opera. That seems like a momentous enough occasion to do a watch party together on. This is like this is a bounce back flight, right? Like, you know, if this is like a football game. I know probably honestly majority of you aren't Americans, so this isn't maybe all that relevant. But a football game, you know. Flight 7 was like the other team scored a touchdown. You know, it's the fourth quarter. They just scored a touchdown and they're up by, you know, 7. And now we need to score a touchdown just to, you know, tie the game up.
Looks like we have lost a ship.
We're not trying to get out ahead here. We're just trying to, you know, compensate. We're trying to get back on track is really the kind of the situation here. From Brazil. Hello, Juno.
Again, in
Do
excitement
flip maneuver and land
watching
on the
that
flame
and
trench.
in
On the flame
anticipation knowing
trench.
that we're gonna hopefully
hey, I mean-
experience booster catch again. I know seeing.
I mean, if things go well for this flight, then Flight 9 is likely to be ship catch.
Now,
So,
using the data from Flight 7, we've made some key improvements under the hood.
for the odds it explodes. I wonder if there's a poly market on this one. Last time there was polymark. Here it is.
Harmonic response several times stronger in flight than we saw in testing.
And harmonic response, in this case, it's essentially vibrations that we're seeing.
Here's all the odds. If you want to know any odds, here is your answer.
Create an incredible amount of noise and vibration.
Starship Flight Test 8.
Through every component of
It happens today, so it launches today. 95% chance of a launch today. 79% chance of a catch. 98% chance we pass the Kármán line. This is basically not a catch.
That eventually cascaded into fires.
Starship, Super survives re-entry, 93%. No Trump. Successful splashdown, 72% is really high considering what happened to the last ship, but I think that I'd probably take it. So there's a 72% chance that the ship survives.
Static fire. During this test, we cycled through multiple throttle levels. In fact,
Predicting like 40% of experienced failure on the second stage. Well, I mean, you have to kind of think about this in two ways, right? Like, so, do you think there's going to be, let me just make sure we're back live, I had to reset that real quick. I just want to, so there's two ways to think about this, right? So either, because there is a failure on the last mission of the second stage, that means it's not as reliable, and we expect a higher chance of failure on Flight 8, because the ship is, you know, not, it's a little questionable. The other way of thinking about this is that there's actually a lower chance of failure of the ship on Flight 8 because there was a failure on the last flight, and then they put a whole bunch of effort into fixing the problem, and now it's like super perfect reliable. I think reality is probably somewhere in between those two. Did anybody answer on say it would probably explode a few seconds in launch? I hope he didn't say that, and I don't think that'll happen though. V2 is growing on me? Nah, I mean I've had the same opinion of V2 forever. I think it looks good, but it looks slightly worse than V1 in my opinion. Hopefully there's no engine failures. Hopefully we get a perfect flight. You know, we launch, perfect hot stage, 13 engines relight for the boost back, 13 engines shut down, tower works perfectly, we target the tower, we come in, relight 13 engines, perfect, Perfect catch. Drop down to 3. Chunks come in, grab it. Perfect. Ship goes right into orbit. Suborbit. Cuts all its engines. 844. We do a perfect payload deploy test. The PEZ dispenser door closes as per plan. Everything works. We do a perfect relight in space demo deorber thing. We do a perfect entry. We get to see the front flaps. We get to see no burn through. And then we get to see belly flop. We get to see 3 engines light up, and we get to see a beautiful splashdown in the Indian Ocean.
Where those fires broke out,
V2's a German rocket and Starship.
That's enough pressurized space between just the bottom.
I mean, V2 is just version 2, so, you know, there's a lot of version 2s out there.
In that space resulted in a loss of vehicle back on flight 2.
V3 is terrible. I don't think V3 is ever going to be a thing, though. I think by the time it gets that tall, they'll have widened it, they'll have thickened it, and then it won't look as bad.
Pretty hefty purge system. It's going to use gaseous nitrogen. It's pretty
And
similar
V2
to the
booster,
CO2
probably a
carbon
few
dioxide
flights from
system we
now.
use on booster.
V3 ain't happy, not in the
Essentially,
form that it was
closes
presented,
out
I don't
with
think,
an
no.
inert gas to prevent a fire from ever starting. And then in addition to this, we increase
Alright,
the
25
attic's
minutes until
natural
launch.
fire defense just by adding some additional vent holes. That helps to keep the attic pressure as close to just
We haven't seen that graphic that they used to show in the earlier flights. Like the little graphic that shows how much percent the propellant is loaded. I haven't seen that one. I don't remember seeing it on Flight 7, and I haven't seen it yet on Flight 8. Might be wrong, though.
So that ship will be using Raptor 3 engines, which will.
Well, what ship will be using Raptor 3?
And
Wait, hold on, what?
that can leak into the space.
What ship is using Raptor 3? I missed what you said. Which ship did she say a specific ship number is using Raptor 3?
Hardware all together in a real-world environment.
Did anyone catch what she said?
The data.
I don't think I can replay it. Ship 967. You know, it just auto skips to live. I can't go backward.
Continues its ascent.
We'll figure that out later.
In space, we're going to have a test satellite deploy. Pew pew. Starlink's firing out, and then we're also going to do a Raptor relighting one of those sea level engines before we get to ship re-entry.
By the state machine.
And the ship will continue through, make its entry phase that lasts for a few minutes.
Was that just a scrub? Was that just scrub right there? He said hole, but that probably means.
And if some comms did just go out, we heard that an operator hold got in, so they are troubleshooting one issue. As we continue to move through prop load, we'll get some more details on what caused the hold, and if we start to reset to a new T0. We are still loading prop on the vehicle, so essentially putting that.
Well, the timer hasn't stopped counting.
Hit that T-minus 40-second mark. We'll hold there and wait to clear
okay,
the issue if we
that makes sense. Okay, I see. I get what Dan's saying. So they're going to continue the count, and then the hold is basically built into the T-minus 40-second point. Okay.
Is an opportunity to troubleshoot.
So we'll see. So they'll either fix it by then and cancel the hold, or we'll enter the hold. And I believe we have 15 minutes of hold time. So not a big deal. No scrubs yet. I don't know what issue they are dealing with, but
we are launching at 5:45 p.m.
I think V3 happened. Won't the distance of the top flaps from the center mass improve the performance of the flaps during belly flop? Yes, that is true. That is very true. But it is very long, and with a rocket that long, you're gonna have like bending problems during launch, right? Because with the wind and wind shear, which is a problem Falcon has. Like Falcon 9 has a lower than average wind tolerance because of how long and bendy it is. You don't want to have if you want Starship to be as rapidly reusable as they say it's going to be, and be able to launch every hour. You're gonna have to get a little bit kind of aggressive with the weather constraints. So you'll be scrubbing like every third flight because the wind is gonna snap the rocket in half.
And that will significantly reduce their exposure to
and the cargo door on top of that V3.
Also,
yeah.
By making Starship 2 meters taller, we added about 25% more propellant volume.
So Kerbal Space Program wobbles, yeah, pretty much.
Upgrades such as vacuum jacketing of the feed lines, new fuel feed line system for Raptor vacuum engines.
Square cube law Starship will have the same height. Due to squared cube law, Y Starship will have to be the same height to have the same TWR.
We're not planning on switching it a whole lot more beyond this and future ones.
Listen, hear that? That's basically confirmation that
it'll be going.
Basically confirmation that V3 doesn't exist anymore.
Removed. Is again, we're trying
to
stress test all
EF?
of the vulnerable areas. Call this the missing tile test. Those tiles are removed in strategic locations all across
This is a company
the
who caught a
vehicle,
massive
including
booster
critical
charge, so I
areas
wouldn't
like
put it
those
past them to go to
tanks.
having gate bending forces
And
during
over
launch. Yeah, but
cocktails
oh,
as we
but well,
use this
Dan
flight
just
to
said
really
that though.
push
So.
those boundaries.
But
In
why would
addition
they?
to that, we have
Why
some
would they
talent
want to
tiles
negate?
again that are being tested,
Like,
including
whatever
the
mechanism they would have to
this
use to
animation that has
negate
a-
bending
some
forces
active
would have to
cooling
add
built in.
mass to the vehicle,
The
though.
vehicle's avionics
Right?
also
So,
underwent a complete
like, they
redesign,
could negate the
things like
bending,
4
but
upgraded Starlink
it
terminals,
will.
combining
It'll cost
Starlink,
mass, and there'll
global
be less payload
navigation,
capacity.
and
It's
RF
easier to just
communications. You can see the
widen it.
location there on your screen.
It's
And
gonna
on the
fail for
sides
that
of the
alone. Yeah,
vehicle,
V3 is also very
non-structural
ugly.
versions of
The
the
white
ship's
stuff's back.
catch
What white
fittings
stuff?
are installed
Talking
to
about the
test
ablative
thermal
layer.
performance,
That stuff
along
was
with
or
a
the like
smoothed and
graphics that they're
tapered edge
using.
on one
Starlink.
section of the
Starlink.
tile line to address hotspots that we observed during Flight 6.
And once more, we're back at testing some.
So I can't wait for
sensors on
the.
those tower catch
I
arms.
can't wait
We
for
did that
the
last flight,
shorter
which
sticks.
we're
That's one
doing
thing I'm
again
really
as
looking forward to
we
because
look
there's no
for
need for the
additional
sticks to be
ways
that
to
long. They
measure
can
the
just be. They
distance
can literally
between
be
the
half
arms
as
of the
long,
vehicle.
basically.
Catching the ship's going to be
Will
pretty
be the final
different
version of
from
Raptor. I mean, it's the
catching
final
the
version for now,
ship
right?
before, so your antennas are going to rapidly.
So, but you know,
reorient.
they'll get to
And so just
V3.
having
They'll
any
say it's
extra
the final
sensors on the
version,
ground
but
side,
if
you're
you
adding
know anything
extra
about
layers
like
of
Elon
control
companies, they
over
never
the ship
stop.
towers
There's
and
never a
ship
final
forward
version of
catch.
things. Things just
In
keep
another
changing.
first, Starship will deploy 4 Starlink simulators.
Oh, I thought it was
They are
3. Okay,
similar
it's
in
4.
size
So
to
they'll
our next
like
generation
Elon's been
Starlink
saying V3.
satellites.
Elon's already actually
Unparalleled
started
payload
hinting at
capacity and
Raptors
full
beyond V3.
reusability.
But after V3,
Starship will be
they'll think
able
they'll
to
done, and then
deploy
they'll
more
start.
advanced
They'll be like, oh,
V3
we can
Starlink
improve this, we can
satellites,
improve that, and then
which
they'll
will
just slowly make
revolutionize
improvements
global
as they go
connectivity
along.
with Starlink all over again.
Probably certainly over
Each one
time.
of
Oh, of
those
course. The reuse is super for
Starlink
flight now.
launches
I think
for
it's getting
Starship
time.
is
I actually would
gonna
have
add
expected them to
about 60
reuse
terabits
a Super Heavy by
to
now.
Starlink network,
And if they
which
keep
is
recovering these
text
things,
that's
they're
like
gonna
3
start.
times the
They're
capacity
gonna start
of
getting
what
a
we're adding
rather
with
large
every
collection
launch
growing
of the
in
Falcon
the
9 right now.
in the build site.
So
They're
it's
gonna run out of room to
us
put them, so they're gonna have to
expand
either
Starlink's network,
like
expand
start
its
scrapping
impact
them or start
in the coming
launching
years
them.
as we expand that access to
I think
ICE
Flight 9 has a
all
good
around the
chance
world,
of being a
eventually
reused
beyond.
booster. But
And
then again,
the
Flight 9
Starlink
is also
simulators that we're deploying
possibly a
today,
ship
they're gonna be
catch,
on the
so
same
maybe you want to
suborbital
be as sure
trajectory
as possible
Starship.
that
We expect them to
know,
demise as they enter in the atmosphere.
you might not want to be
And the
testing
Starship's trajectory itself looks very
booster
similar to our
reuse on the
last
flight
several
on the
flights
first
last
time. You're
targeted
also
in
you don't
the
want maybe you don't
Indian
want to test booster
On top of
reuse
all
on
that,
a
also
very
the
important
reloading
launch like
single
that,
weapon
right? Because it'd be a
engine
shame
while
if
in
you're
space,
if you don't
we're
even
trying
get
to
to try
do,
ship catch because the
in-space
booster
rapid
fails.
burns. You're gonna
You know, you
need
put all the
those
work
for
into getting the
orbit
ship ready
burns
for
when we're
catch,
doing
and then it
orbital
just
missions.
explodes because the
Eventually,
booster didn't
when we're
work.
doing missions way
Booster
beyond
totally
Earth,
reflown. I do
on
not
our
think
way to
Booster
Mars.
totally will
Yeah.
be reflown.
So
I think there's a
just like
good
you said
shot
earlier,
Booster
Dan, there's a
14 will be
lot on
reflown.
Starship's plate
Although it's
today.
possible they don't want to
But one of
refly a
the
booster.
hallmarks of these Starship
It's
flights
possible they're
are
not
the
going to reuse the
incredible
booster
views that we
until
get throughout
V2
the
booster
flight,
with the
courtesy
integrated
of
hostage
Starlink.
ring.
Every day, we're working
Because
to expand
V1
the
booster is
Starlink
essentially
network
an
both
outdated
on
design
Earth
at this
and
point.
in space. For how all
Essentially.
this connects us to the big
So maybe they don't
vision
want to
and back to
reuse
Chris.
boosters until
Thanks,
V2.
Kate. And as
Still in his
fans of
lawn
Starship,
ornaments? I'd pay
Starlink enables us to
$5
bring
for
you a
one.
lot of those unprecedented views
Where
both
is
from
Jesse?
space
Where'd
and
she
on
go?
Earth.
Did she get fired or
Personally, I
something?
love all those epic views of the plasma
Put a
wrapping
part
around
of Starship,
Starship
put him in a
during
frame and
re-entry.
sell it.
So
I'd
thank
pay
you
good
to
money
our
for that.
Starlink
I don't think
teams
they would. I mean, it is
all of
like
those amazing
SpaceX
views
steel is
and the
proprietary
information we
steel,
get.
so
Now, in addition to the dozens of
you know they
cameras on
probably don't want to
Starship itself, as you
actively
see on your
distribute
screen
that to
here, we
people.
also
I mean,
have
people
mobile
have gotten their
Starlink
hands
camera
on
kits deployed in
SpaceX
the middle
of
of the
Starship
Indian
steel
Ocean,
before, but it's
as you're
not,
seeing from a
you know, because of
previous
debris
flight.
and other stuff.
Starlink also allows us to connect our aerial cinematography units on
This
the
is
ground
cool.
at
These are them
Starbase
showing the
and
buoys
other
go out
strategic
for
camera
the
spots
for the
around
landing
Texas and
bird.
the
There it
world.
is.
And that's all part of how it comes together
So,
to help us
you know,
tell the
there we
incredible
go.
story of Starship both on and off the planet. So thanks
Mock-up,
to
yeah,
Starship,
they're
thanks
mock-ups.
to
They're not
Starlink,
functional
Starship is now capable
because
of
they'll be
streaming more than
suborbital. So there's no point in them being
120 megabits per
functional because
second
it's
of
gonna just
real-time,
it's
high-definition
gonna
video
land at the same time as
telemetry through
Starship.
every phase of flight. This not only provides those incredible views of reentry for all of us, us, but also the invaluable engineering data to help our engineers rapidly iterate across all systems of Starship. And all of that streaming data today will be put to good use with the more than 30
Jesse
cameras
back.
that are on the vehicle
Who's
for
there?
today's flight. Now, Starlink is
We
the
actually
world's
go
largest
get
satellite constellation
BO cam. What's
operating in
BO?
low
Blue
Earth orbit
Origin
to deliver
cams? Are you talking about like
high-speed,
for
low-latency
New Glenn? Or are you
broadband
talking
internet.
about
This provides internet
something
access
else?
to people
Is
around
Hoppy
the
still
world,
with launch
many of
thread?
whom
You
never
betcha.
had connectivity
That looks like a
before.
robot.
As of today, Starlink is serving
I don't know.
more than 125
This guy's getting
countries,
some hate. I don't know. I may have
territories, and
initiated
other
some of that
markets,
hate
and has
because
more
I'm
than 5
not happy
million
he
active customers
replaced
and counting. But
one
to
of
meet
our
the global
commentators, but I
demand
don't know, this
for
guy
high-speed
seems like a nice
internet,
guy.
SpaceX recently expanded its factory at Bastrop, Texas.
Dude, his eyes look so
introduced
fake.
Starlink Mini
I don't know.
as
He's
well
probably
as
just
an
nervous. He's
upgraded
probably
version
reading
of
off a
the second
teleprompter. He wants to.
standard
He
chip.
doesn't want to fumble
Here's
over
our
his words.
first ever look
Oh yeah,
inside
shoot. We're
our
already
brand
like
new
within
Bastrop
15 minutes, but
facility.
we do expect a little bit of a. We might get a hold because of a delay. Oh, new video.
There's like an interesting stat where like the odds of being struck by lightning in your lifetime are like about 1 in 15,000. And we make 15,000 dishes a day. if the odds of a defect happening are the same odds as being struck by lightning in your lifetime, it's almost guaranteed to happen one time in this factory a day. So you have to have like a very intense focus.
Oh, this isn't Star Factory. This is the Starlink factory. Okay, never mind. I don't care about this.
Right now we're in.
It is pretty cool though. It is pretty cool.
Starlink manufacturing site, just about 20 miles east.
Oh, they got some
of
3D
downtown.
printers there.
So the main function of this site is to produce our standard Starlink kits. Right now we're producing 15,000 a day straight out of the factory.
What is this? This is a little tour of the
Raw plastic
Starlink
pellets
factory.
come in, raw aluminum comes in, and we make those into the Starlink kits and then ship them right out to customers' homes.
These factories are really cool.
When you manufacture the product that you design in-house,
Elon
you're
does
focused
know
on
how to
making
make a factory.
mistakes.
You know,
What that means
you can
is
say a lot
you're
about the man, but he
able to
makes.
quickly innovate and
He is
iterate
probably the
and
best
scale
factory maker in the
rapidly.
world. Like, if you ever go inside an
Our
Elon
previous
factory,
generation
it is really
of
something.
production line was maxed out in terms of capability, and the demand for Starlink has kept growing. So when we sat
Well, they
down
make them
and
so
designed
fast
this
'cause
factory initially
robots,
in our
man, and
production
other
line,
things.
we were really forcing ourselves to innovate.
So dumb. Just build a massive Dyson sphere. Yeah, antennas pointed. Obviously, spend whatever, probably $500 trillion building a Dyson sphere. Hey, I would love to see a Dyson
We're
sphere.
in the middle right now of constructing an expansion to our current factory. We're going to add over 1 million square feet of manufacturing space over the course of this year and allow us to continue to insource more of our
God, imagine being the person who has to design a factory like that. Just the amount of things you need to work. It'd be just, my head would explode. I don't think my brain could process that amount of information. Just the amount of things you need to have flowing and
this was an empty
blah.
building with no employees, and over the last 20 months, we've built a factory from scratch.
Elon would be
We've gone from
Chinese.
producing 0 kits to over
I
7,000
mean,
a week.
insane comment. There is Chinese Elon Musk. Elon Ma. 你好中国，我是 Elon Ma. If Ninja got a load, oh my
And
god.
it is incredible to see all of the tech in that facility that will help millions of people around the world. The way
There's
they
3
want
launches
to use
every
it,
set.
the
Yeah,
way that
pretty
they need
much.
to use that
Elaine
technology.
Wong.
Definitely a lot of good things to come
Elon
from our
Ma.
Bastrop facility. And while we're talking about the
Elaine
infrastructure that
Wong.
enables us to do all of these amazing things, you've probably seen some changes recently around Starbase.
Ooh, are we gonna get a
Coming
Star?
online this year is
We gonna
the
get a
second
Star
tower at
Factory
Starbase, and this
tour?
tower
No
has
video?
redesigned
No? Okay.
chopsticks and is built to accommodate
Elon
the next
Musk got
generation
hacked and
of
is now
Starship
poor.
and Super
Made it
Heavy.
go for. Did that actually real?
Redesigned launch
Did
mount and
Elon
flame
Musk get
control
like
system
scammed out of his all
built to be
his money or
rapidly
something?
reusable and hardy enough to withstand hundreds of launches at a time.
Elon
Now, over at the
Musk.
production site down the road, we're also building a new integration and refurbishment facility called Gigabay.
I feel like that's kind of a
Gigabay, as the
scam
name
though. Why would
implies, will
who
allow us
would
to
give a
process more
GoFundMe to
starships
like
at the
deep
same
fake
time
Elon
over
Musk?
our
Elon
current
Musk.
megabays. But Gigabay isn't just for Texas. If that weren't exciting enough, we're also further expanding Starship operations into Florida, bringing production and launch capabilities to the Space Coast. As Starship flight testing,
An upgrade Pad 1
development,
OLM
and
to an
launch
O2
cadence
V2
continues
OLM.
to
Yeah, that's been
increase at
speculated for a
Starbase in
while. Ooh,
Texas.
here's some cool renders of
We're
the
building
Florida
Gigabay as well.
Florida
Gigabay will stand
Starship
380 feet
facilities.
tall and will provide about
I think it's been widely
46
believed in the
million
community at this
cubic
point
feet of
that
interior
the
processing space and
once
about
they get the
850,000
Pad B
square
online
feet of
and
space.
launching, they're gonna
As
basically
environmental impact
demolish
statements
Pad
continue
A
for
and
future
rebuild
Starship
it
launches
with
and
Pad
flight
2
from Build
hardware.
Launch
So
Complex
they'll
39
redo the
and Kennedy
OLM
Space Center
and build
and Launch
dig a
Complex
flame trench,
37
etc.,
at
etc. And they
Kennedy
may
Space
even
Station,
replace the
and
chopsticks
to
with the
complete
smaller
Starship
versions as
launch
well.
pad at Pad
And they'll upgrade. You don't
39A
think
this
first?
year.
I bet there's an
Pending
85%
completion
chance
environmental
they do a
review,
complete
SpaceX
overhaul
intends to conduct
because
the first Starship
the
launch from Florida from
the
launch pad
boosters
39
for
A
Pad
later
B
this
will not
year.
be compatible with the
Now, we're
boosters for
also
Pad A
interested
because they
in
use a
using
different
Starship
latching
launches
mechanism
from
the
Flight
OLM does.
37.
So
And as
like
part of this process,
you're,
SpaceX has
Pad A
been
is basically going to become
entry
useless if you don't at
Pad
least
37
retrofit it
to conduct
some
further
to
due
some degree.
diligence at the site in order
Like
to
prop
move
loading.
forward
Oh
with
yeah,
the
prop loading is we're
environmental
well
impact
into
study
prop
that's
loading.
being led by the Department of the Air Force.
I think it's necessary because yeah, I mean it's basically a completely different version of OLM, right? Just move on to other pads. Yeah, but you'd want to have 2 pads in Starbase, right? Like you already have this big giant tower, probably that cost over $1 billion built. There's there's no reason not to use this pad. Basically, you basically just delete all the old bits of the pad and rebuild it with new bits. It basically would be like a new pad. You just keep the tower and maybe the QD arm and a few other things.
Quick update on range and weather. For
Power
the range,
outdation.
the
That's
area
the-
around the pad has been
we can add it to
cleared.
Merriam-Webster's.
This includes the land,
SpaceX
air,
does
and
crazy.
sea space. So all is clear.
Space
on
failed
the
catch,
range
yeah,
front. That
well,
also,
a failed catch. Oh, here's
over
this is what I was
in
looking
the
for.
Indian Ocean, the
This is
sea
what I
airspace
was looking
has
for.
been
I was waiting for
cleared
this
as
graphic.
well. For ship's re-entry. Once again,
But look, if a booster catch fails and
So
destroys the pad, that is just
out there, and we'll get some great videos.
no. Even if you have a backup pad, that is a
Weather,
catastrophically
we
bad
have a 35%
situation.
chance of violating the weather launch. Excuse me, the weather constraints
You okay
for
there,
launch
Kate?
today. So it's not perfect, but it's not bad.
Okay, so
visibility also not so.
we're
awesome. We can see the
65%
tower here.
chance
We're
of
2
go,
miles
so
away
that's
from the
okay.
launch pad,
Graphic
but
is V1.
visibility
Oh yeah,
in
it
the
does.
area might be a little challenging.
Yeah. In terms of the vehicle itself, so right
Anyway,
now,
what was I
you can
talking?
see
So
we're
yeah,
almost done loading
if a
process.
booster
We're
comes in and
almost done on
crashes
booster.
like
If
into
you
here, like the
didn't
tank
heard
farm is
earlier,
gonna
we
like
did hear
explode, and
talking
you know.
about a flight controller hold going in. So just a reminder, all that means is we wouldn't be able to pass that T-minus 40-second mark. They're literally talking about it right now in the loops that they think they've got the problem figured out.
Okay,
There's
cool.
an issue on the booster where we think we'll
About 10 minutes
clear
away,
by
so
about
we
the
have a
2-minute
possibility
mark.
of weather
We'll be able
violation,
to
but we're
move right
65%
through
chance to go for weather, and it sounds like they've resolved the
hopefully.
flight controller
Upload
issue.
continuing.
Shout out
We're
the
not
tower when
holding or anything
Ben's
yet.
going to catch us. Yeah, seeing
And
the
we're expecting that
I
issue
don't know.
to
I
clear
never.
before we
I'm
get to
not
that T-minus
like the
40 mark.
tower probably does flex, but
this
seeing
morning,
the
though, we did
sticks,
all of
the
the
sticks
usual
really
checkouts,
flex. You
alignment
seem like
navigation
boing
did
when
all of
the
our
booster
and
comes down. You can actually
ship
see when you have a
purchase
booster
down
hanging
the
from the
ready for
sticks, they
cargo,
actually they're a
check
little
out,
bent.
the pad,
Not
which
much,
you
but a
can
little
see
bit.
All the cryo right
It's
now.
The lake of
Pretty
liquid
clear out
oxygen,
there.
nitrogen, and
Prop
just the
load's been
air in
going.
general. Crazy stuff. Yeah, they.
Just did a flap.
Oh, look at that!
Out.
I don't remember them doing these before. Did they ever fully retract the flaps?
As well.
Ooh, on board.
We are going to continue loading.
I don't
our
remember
ops
seeing
for
a
about
full
another 6
flap
minutes.
extension
We're
and
gonna
retraction
close
test.
ship at about 3 minutes.
That's
20
really
seconds
cool.
Before launch.
Thoughts
Booster
on
just
Muskrat so
about
far in
30
power?
seconds later. So, we've
you
had
know,
at least one
good
issue
stuff,
that
bad
we're still
stuff.
working in the background, expecting that to clear before we hit
Some
that,
stuff.
kind of that hold game.
I don't know. We're a little close to launch to start like a full-on Elon conversation at
So
this point. But
bottom
you know,
line, things are looking good for liftoff here in just under 9 minutes. We're now at looks like 8 minutes and
you know,
49
maybe during
seconds.
coast phase
So
we can
everything's
discuss.
looking green so far.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm probably
For liftoff,
more in
we
favor than
shamelessly
against.
plug Starbase.
Flap
One of the
extension,
first
yeah.
couple thousand people who work here.
Flapping though V2 is a bit weird. I prefer the
Starbase,
old flap design, but you know, I don't think it looks necessary. I don't think V1 or V2 necessarily looks bad.
SpaceX.com/careers. See all the openings. It's where the
That's scary
future's
points,
being
okay.
built, and it's a future we can all be pretty excited about.
Let me try and point this down a little bit
So
more.
yeah, come work here. Anyway, back to our regular.
What was I talking? I was talking about something, then I got distracted with chat and
Alright,
them
so
talking.
We're, coming up to 8 minutes
Other flight
until
is
liftoff.
bad.
As we mentioned before, flight controllers
Scare
are
the
already
atmosphere
on
away,
console.
problem solved.
They're
Yeah.
looking
Oh, I was
at
gonna talk about the
that
fog
at
machine,
control
the big
center
giant. It's
about
like
6
I was
miles
gonna
away
say
from the
how
pad.
it's
But
very
it
interesting
will
how
soon
every
be
Starship
moving
launch
back
comes
to,
also with
Star
like a
Factory.
dedicated
So
fog
a lot of
machine. It's
excitement
like a
about
bonus.
that.
You could have like a disco.
Certainly growing.
You could have a
Yeah,
nightclub
yeah,
going
general
right behind the
sales
old
sector
you have the
continuing
fog
progress.
machine
We're
going. Just get like a
minutes
disco
away.
ball.
We're tracking an issue with booster. We're expecting that
You
to
know,
clear.
a little bit of
So
a club
looking
going.
for
Everyone will
launch.
freeze to death with the
Booster, let's talk
cryo
about
propellant going through there.
Absolutely.
The tower's
So
two
as soon
giant
as
robotic arms
Starship
that
built
lift
city
and
on
stack Starship
Mars
a
base
super
and gets
heavy
pretty
final
awesome.
integration ahead of flight. We also
Awesome,
use those to
awesome.
catch. Means we don't
Scare
have
the
to
atmosphere
manually
away, yeah.
boost
Well,
it.
the engines do
Booster
kind of
light
scare
means
the
we can
atmosphere
throw
away.
payload into space.
People have talked about this.
Following liftoff,
That's
and
always been like
after
kind of the
two
cope
stages
that
separating
everyone always
flights,
says. I remember
the
people were like
return
saying this all the
to
time with
launch
Flight
site,
11.
Same exact launch site that it lifted
It was
off from.
like some
Reignite
hardcore
its
hopium,
engines
right?
to slow the vehicle
They were saying
down
like,
and
oh,
to
just when the
piggyback
engine's
from
light, it'll
previous
the
booster catch. I believe that was our
exhaust
first
will
booster catch.
scatter the atmosphere. It'll
And
burn the
as
atmosphere
vehicles
away.
slow
It'll
down,
burn the
power on
fog
to come
away.
out,
It'll
catch the booster.
it'll blast
And
the fog
just
aside,
like
and it really
the
doesn't
last
make
few
much of a
times,
difference. So
Literally thousands
people,
of
that was
different
always the
vehicles
hopium
criteria
line I
have
heard a
to be
lot
met
for SN11
before
and
we
IFT4.
booster
But I
back
think
and try to catch
you
it.
know,
We need healthy systems,
the
not super
engines
heavy
do
on the
scare
launch
literally
tower, and we
like
need that final
scare the
manual
clouds away
command
to
from the
some
missions flight
extent. But
director for
at
the
what
day.
point
If that command is
after
sent
Starship
before we
is
finish
fully
the
operational,
boost
I think they
back
retire the
or if any of
Falcon
those
a long
automated
time
health
from
checks
now.
kick us out,
I think
the booster
Elon
defaults
wants
to a
to
trajectory,
retire
takes it to a landing
Falcon
bar that's
soon, but they
also
have like
splash
payload
pad
obligations.
Yeah, we
10,
have said
like,
it
at least
multiple
5
times
years
before,
from now,
but
I
it
think
still
they have stuff
holds
launching on
true
Falcon.
today. We accept
Now,
no
it's
compromises
possible
when it
that
comes to ensuring the safety
it's
of the
possible
public
that
and
they
our
will.
team,
I
and
can't
the
focus with
return
Kate
will
talking at
only
the same
take
time
place
as me.
if the
So it's
conditions
possible
are
that they'll
right, and there
shift
are many
the
of them. So
Falcon,
there's a chance
the
that
existing,
the
the later on
result
payloads the Falcon onto
One
Starship.
aspect of the return of
But,
the
I mean,
capsule booster
Dragon can
is
only
the
fly on
audible
Starship. So any
sonic
ISS
any
mission,
area
which
around the return
so far the
location that
ISS is
happens
scheduled
as the
until
boosters slow
2030, so
down
5 more
to
years.
supersonic speeds.
Even though Elon wants
It's
to
similar to
deorbit it
sonic
sooner.
booms that were heard
So anything that
during
involves
the return of
Dragon
the
obviously needs to be
Space Shuttle
Falcon, but I
right
would say
before
5 years for Falcon.
Sonic booms
After
like
all
these
that.
are unique to vehicles returning from space.
Isn't there a
and
lot of
are one
exhaust
the
just
hallmarks
isn't
of
a
space
lot
systems
of
like
the exhaust
our
just
Falcon
dust,
9
water,
and Falcon
steam,
Heavy
and
vehicles.
about greenhouse
The general
gases doesn't
impact
change
to those
anything in the
the
bigger scale? Of course
surrounding
not.
area of a sonic boom is basically a brief thunder-like noise, and I've heard sonic booms before, but I got to
Exhaust just ran
experience
water.
that first in person. Starship
They still
sonic
have lost
boom,
yes, where is it?
on
So
Flight
the
7,
exhaust,
and
so
I
this
can
board
confirm it's
CH4
pretty fun to
and
experience.
O2. So the exhaust is H2O and CO2, I believe. So it's water and carbon dioxide, I believe, is the exhaust. So you are polluting a little bit with methane, but it's not much in the grand scheme of things. And it's really that there's not really a green fuel. I guess hydrogen is essentially a green fuel because it just burns. The exhaust is pure water, but CH4, because it does have that carbon atom in there, does obviously deposit carbon into the atmosphere because you are burning carbon.
I've heard sonic booms many times in Florida. They are definitely a hallmark, and what a way to announce a returning space vehicle's return for reuse.
Here's how much
Now,
of the
here
dark
in
trail.
California,
So we're all saying about dust and stuff. So the dust is up, like dust in the exhaust. That's the only time you see that is just dust getting kicked up. This stream is freezing a lot, and I know it's not my end because you can see it like it is definitely on SpaceX's side. Hey, Bobby.
Systems, including the avionics and those 39 Raptor engines that were.
So yeah, like there isn't any,
with 4 minutes, 30
aside
seconds
from
to
like the
go,
sand and all that stuff that gets
how
kicked
are
up.
we looking
There
for a
isn't
launch
any.
today?
There isn't any like dust in the
We are
exhaust when
still
like just purely
looking
in the
good.
exhaust.
We're just about fully
So that's
tapped
not
out
really
on
a thing we have to
propellant,
worry about.
on both vehicles. The closeout's going to be coming up in about
Hydrogen
a
is very
minute
clean,
on
especially
ship,
when it
and then
ignites and
about
cleans
30
everything in the
seconds later
cover.
on the
Yeah, pretty
booster.
much. Yeah, we're coming in
We
about
are
4
still
minutes
hearing
until
chatter in the
launch.
background about the booster issue that we're tracking. We may still be able to pass the hold, but if we need to hold it,
Alright, so it looks like we may hold,
we have several.
but it
minutes
doesn't
that we
seem
can
like
hang out there
we're too
and
concerned
work
for a
to
scrub.
Just kind of troubleshoot those
Do
final
you think they
issues
use gaming
before we get
PCs
to
in
go.
Starbase? They probably use
Once
very
we're fully loaded
powerful
on prop, which
PCs
is coming up soon, we've got
to
just
run
shy of
mission
11
control. You probably don't
million
need
pounds
very
of
powerful PCs,
liquid
but
oxygen,
probably a good
liquid
idea to have
methane
them.
on both of
Like
those
there was
stages.
who
And
was it?
then
Was it
once we're done, we're gonna
Firefly?
see
Mission
that
control
we're
was
here, the ground
purely Mac
lines
powered,
do
which I thought was a
push back.
questionable choice.
So all of
But
that
you don't
propellant
need
gets
crazy
pushed
because
out
the
those
data's
lines
being
back
streamed to the PC. What you need is reliable internet. And speaking of reliable internet, we just had a stutter.
Now, in the next
Lock
few
to
minutes, the guidance system will perform
hold.
a
Hey,
final
as long as there's a
alignment.
launch, I don't care about a hold as long as there's launch. We can do a 15-minute hold just as a reminder, unless that's changed. I know for some flights it used to be a 15-minute hold.
If we do need to hold, it would come at that.
But it seems like it's
40-second
50-50
mark.
on the hold. But we'll
That
see
is
if we
the point
proceed
in the
through the
countdown where we
40-second
can
hold or not.
pause to wait for final checkouts or
Does it require good PCs to get to
pressurization,
space? I mean, it
or if we
requires
continue to work through
powerful
that issue.
avionics
So,
to get to
once we
space.
pass through that
So, you know, like your
40 seconds
accelerometers, your
mark,
gyroscopes,
a
your
number of things are gonna happen
GPSs,
quite quickly.
and then you have
The
flight
ground
computers
expand
on
and
board,
ignition systems come
you
up
know,
to
to
full
actually control the
pressure.
vehicles.
The
You
ship's gonna
need some
go
powerful
into
hardware to do that.
power, and after that,
SpaceX operator wouldn't be surprised if the flight computer is a glorified Arduino.
preparation for retraction shortly
Well, I mean,
after
SpaceX
T0.
is
And
advanced enough that they probably have their own
once we do pass that
proprietary
T-40 seconds, we still have the
proprietary
ability to
hardware
recycle
and
the
software.
count under certain conditions back to that T-40 seconds.
They
and
do?
hold there
really?
To assess what
Oh,
happened.
40
And
seconds.
if
I
we
thought,
need
I
to
thought you
proceed
said
again
like,
to
I thought you were
T0,
going to
but
say
that's
like
only
beginning of
in
the
certain situations.
beginning of the prop load.
Right, so we're just about
Potato powered mission control before GTA 6, yeah.
We do have a couple of things.
Some
like,
scripts and
if
bam.
we hit
Yeah,
T-minus 10
I mean, well,
seconds and
well,
you see water start flowing out of the deflector.
yeah, Apollo
that is
11
a
avionics
reason
like
for
4
us to
gigs,
script
if
for
even
today,
that,
is
right?
that's- Once it's turned on, it doesn't turn off.
But I mean,
And
again,
then
Apollo
the
guidance was
tanks,
fairly
the water farm
rudimentary.
and the prop farm.
But I mean, it's not that hard to
Really,
get a
really
rocket
good.
into space, right? You just go up and then you just tell it to turn, 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 turn. That's really all. That's all the guidance does. Just go up, turn, go up, turn, go up, turn, go up, turn.
Thanks.
Sorry, we're coming up just under 2 minutes away.
And then like the moon for Apollo, the moon landings are actually manual landed, or 160 kilobytes. Yeah, that sounds more bigger. I didn't think anyone knew what a gigabyte was in the 1960s. No one ever made one of those. Kind of flight computer use at least one ESP32. I have no idea what an ESP232 is. What did Dan say? I'm trying to catch up on chat here. We're a minute 25 and no one's talking, so this is weird. Why is no one talking? I mean,
less than a minute and a half away. Again, Keep
Okay, I'm
an
gonna-
eye on the clock. Look for T-minus 40.
I'm going to turn this
We may
up, and then
hold
we'll
there.
see if we get the hold. We'll see if we
Not
hold.
a rocket launch unless
All
you're
right.
talking nonstop in the background until
All right.
right before you lift off.
Once again, if we
All right, here we go.
hold
We
up
haven't had a
40
40-second hold
seconds,
since
we have
Flight
an
1, I
opportunity to
believe,
hold there
so...
for several minutes. This is unique to Starship. We don't have
7
this
hour
ability
70
on
avionics
Falcon.
were like? I don't know, mechanical?
As we're about 15 seconds away, we did
Not really,
just
you know.
hear we are going to
50.
hold at T-minus 40.
Okay, we are gonna get
so
the
look
hold.
for the
All right.
clock to pause. When
72
we hit
kilos
T-minus
RM,
40
kilobytes
as
to
they
go to the
finish
moon, yeah.
troubleshooting.
And
then we'll-
hold.
We'll let you know as soon as we start hearing
Hey, holds
more.
no problem. We just
And if that clock's
holds
gonna,
are better
when
than
that
scrubs.
clock's going to start rolling.
Just keep an eye on.
So,
keep an eye
holding
on
at
it.
T-minus
Starting
40.
to move again.
The team's
Launch
talking
for
in the
starting to
background,
move.
still troubleshooting. And we can hang out here for a couple of minutes.
Ding dong dong. New Glenn. New Glenn did have a successful flight.
All
Discord
right,
when
and it
it's
sounds like
back.
we cleared the issue on the
Oh, hold on.
booster.
Well,
We're now
hold on. We're
holding
going.
for a late breaking issue with ship, so they're talking through that right now.
Oh, we have a new hold.
Dan, you mentioned things that we've gotten really good at. It's
Gyroscope
incredible
stuff,
to
got
think
it?
that
Yeah.
we just
Oh, the
stacked
scrubbing
this
on New
vehicle
Glenn. Yeah, there
earlier
were
this
many
morning, and
scrubbing.
we're already,
There were many
you know,
New Glenn
through
scrubs.
propload's pretty much
All right.
complete and ready to go.
All right, so
It's
apparently there's an
a
issue on the
very
ship, so let's
slimmed
see
down
if-
timeline.
Yeah, this by
For
far
guys'
will be our
purposes, yeah, yeah.
fastest. This
All right,
we
so let's see if
stacked
we
the
have
thing for
any-
the first time ever.
Let's
with
see if
these
the issue of the
vehicles
ship
less
is
than
severe enough
24
to
hours ago.
scrub.
We
On scrub,
We
right?
really wanna get to a
they,
point where
Dan
we
and
can,
Kate sound
you know,
fairly confident.
fly
So
rapidly, fly as quickly as possible, and so this is definitely a case to try and push that forward. No wet dress or anything like that with these vehicles.
Absolutely.
they do sound fairly confident.
And
We'll see.
should this booster come back for a successful
No,
landing, you were talking about the rapid part of rapid reusability.
Kilobyte
This booster may fly on
RAM
a
memory to
future
get to the moon.
Starship
Yeah, I
flight,
know, it's nuts,
if
isn't
we're
it?
able to catch it and bring it back online. So for those of you that have just recently joined us, we have paused at T-minus 40 seconds just to assess and work through a problem that popped up in the countdown.
Do you think there are
and we
applications
are
of
holding
Starship?
here
I
as
do
the teams
not know.
troubleshoot it. We believe that we have put in a solution and we will be able
Okay.
to proceed.
Cool,
But
good
we
news.
have some chatter on some nets.
Why can't we
indicating that
hear
we're
those
just holding
comms?
here
Well, I
for,
guess you don't. I
40
guess they'd
seconds.
be like ITAR and
This
they don't
is,
want to leak
a
company
great
secrets. That's probably why we
opportunity
don't
for the
have mission
teams.
control.
This is unique.
Because if they're actually
on
talking
Starship,
about
we
like
don't have this
actually
ability on
details of
Falcon
the,
to hold here.
if they're actually talking
partially
about
because
like
there's just
actually
so much
controls they're
propellant
making in like
that,
detailed parts of it, you probably can't.
takes
Yeah, you probably
longer
can't.
as a whole
Especially
for
if
it
it's
to
like
cool down,
guidance related
with that
or stuff like that. Yeah, you
amount
probably
of
don't
volume
want to.
that we have,
You probably don't want to
compared
disclose
to
that as
the
much,
Falcon
even though it would be
vehicle.
really cool to be
But
hearing
this
what they're
T-minus
talking about
40
right
second
now.
hold
But you know,
is pretty
oh well.
cool because
I just
basically
wanna see a
everything
launch. That's what we're
that
here
would
for.
have been a scrub
You can do with 4
is
kilobytes
actually
most
just an opportunity
Kerbal
to
OS
hold here
scripts
and
right in
work
that
through
range.
it.
That is
Or I
true.
should say
That
many
is
things,
true.
not everything.
That's a
Where,
good point.
like I
Yeah.
said, we're working through an issue
things that
now,
really
but
take
we can
data,
also
right, are
pause
like
here
graphical
for
and,
final
you
checkouts
know,
or
other stuff like
completion
that,
of
obviously.
pressurization.
Just the
to
script
get
really
up to
actually isn't
flight
that
levels,
data
that kind of thing.
intensive.
So it's a
Can
it's a
do a
nice
lot more than you
feature
think.
to
Yeah,
allow the team
yeah, you
to
guys
wait
are
for
right.
final
You guys are
checkouts
right. You
or,
guys are making some good
assess
points.
final prop levels. or engine
Banana's
health
getting
and that kind of
revenge for having the system. Yeah, that banana got toasted. I'm pleased with Starship stainless steel on top. With stainless, what do you like? Not heat. Oh, pretty pleased with stainless. Is that a reference to Mr. Wolf? Pretty pleased with sugar on top. Clean the car. Beg it for not to scrub. Even if it does scrub, we'll just recycle 24 hours. Probably won't be, or maybe they'll have to reload the tank first. It'll probably be like 2 or 3 days, but it won't be a huge deal. But they seem confident in a solution, so let's see if we get a. Let's see if the count continues. Data redundancy and very low heat info. No, Samsung has 7 moments are what matters for flight computers. True, also true. I am curious how big, how large the flight computers are for Starship. How big the data is, or how, like, the file. How big is the, like, Starship control.exe? How long is the file? How big is the file? I bet maybe like 10 gigabytes or something. That seems actually absurdly small. I don't know. I don't know how long this stuff is. All right. And the longer we're holding here, the more nervous I'm getting. So let's see about proceeding. Any updates? Please say I want updates, man. Too. See if we can proceed here. Kate and Dan have gone Suspiciously quiet. 10 gig file code would be enormous. Yeah, but I mean, Starship's enormous, so, you know. Like, I don't actually know really what would... I mean, you'd have the script, right, for control and...
All right, if you're just tuning in, we are still holding at this T-minus 40-second gate. We cleared an issue on the booster that we were working up until the hold, still working one on ship, and team still continuing to discuss in the background. We can still hold here for several more minutes. If we're not able to resolve the issue or find a workaround, then we would have to essentially scrub and stand down for the day. If that does happen, we can go as early as tomorrow, but that clearly depends on what work we might need to do to fix any issues. So just obviously stay tuned. But right now, we're a little over 5 minutes into this hold today. We've got a couple more minutes that we can hold at T-minus 40 before we have to kick out. Essentially, looking at a lot of those propellant temperatures on both vehicles, you want those to stay in pretty specific ranges for engine startup and things like that. That's what generally drives how long we can hold at T-minus 40. So still hanging out. As soon as we hear an update on the ship, we will let you know.
That sounds less optimistic than the last update Dan or Kate or they gave. So Scrub's looking more likely today, but we'll see if they fix the problem. If it had AI, yeah. Or if he had AI on...
It's starting to sound like we might have a decision real soon.
Okay. If they had AI, though, they'd have to have a whole model, and that'd be huge and probably not possible. Let's see here. Come on, launch.
All right, you see the clock.
Oh, we're going. All right, beautiful. Issue resolved. Let's go.
Go for launch.
Launch time. Starship Flight 8.
So,
go for launch.
30 seconds to go.
Oh, clock stopped again. Oh.
And we just heard a hold.
Hold again. Okay, now.
Kicked.
Okay, now we're...
No. So we did kick out back to the T-minus 40 hold.
Okay, now we're I assume we're going to get a scrubber now. I assume we're scrubbing. Unless that was just an error on the clock. Because if they actually made an act, let's see. We'll wait for Dan to say something, but we probably can't hold here for much longer. And the issue is, who knows? They have not told us.
All right, so as we started counting back down, we did trip a few more holds automatically from the booster itself. So we are now going to hang out here again at T-minus 40. They've got a couple more troubleshooting steps that they can take. If we're able to get through that, we can start counting down again. If not, we could always offload and try again on either tomorrow or another day. But right now, we're not done for the day yet. Still holding at T-minus 40 seconds.
I think it's a valve problem. It's almost always a valve problem. If it wasn't,
you will know if we're going to go for our launch attempt today, or if we just try it again another day. So keep listening in, and we'll have an update shortly.
If it was an automatic hold, sometimes they just kind of like hit the override button. SpaceX has done that several times before, where they, like on SN10, remember there was the Raptor abort where it had one of the pressures was off, I believe, and the Raptor aborted, and then they looked at the data and said, meh, that's a stupid requirement, and then they just like turned the abort requirement higher, just reloaded the ship, tried again, and then it launched. Oh. Someone said something, and but they really seem...
All right, and we did just hear the call. We are going to offload for today, so we had a couple of holds trip as we started counting down from T-minus 40.
That's a scrub. Back again in a few days for Starship Flight 8, unfortunately. RIP. That's a scrub. Well, no problem. We will, wait with abated breath for the next one. That was sad. That's the first scrub in a while, but I bet it'll be 2 days. I bet we're looking at a Wednesday launch. Bet we're going to be looking at a Wednesday launch. So, Honestly, does SpaceX find it hard to find information about the rockets and people try to spot workers working on the newer Starship? I mean, I don't think they're more secretive than any other companies. They obviously have to protect proprietary information and ITAR regulations and all that stuff. So, but they are fairly forthcoming about, you know, issues that occur. And like, we got a pretty long post about the Flight 7 issues. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, I think I'll just close up the stream here. No point in just dilly-dallying and hanging around. I'll get some dinner, and we'll check back for the next launch attempt, I guess on Wednesday. So, yeah, thank you all for watching. Until next time, please rate or comment this video. Once again, thank you for watching. Until next time, and bye.